Hey, everybody. Welcome to another Tuesday Live podcast with your hosts, Joe and Jen. And today we've got some special friends of ours, some rock stars in North Carolina, and just doing amazing things. And it's really cool to see. So once again, Jackson and Lisa, thank you guys for coming on today.
Yes, thanks, guys.
So let's just go into who you guys are. Can you give us the snapshot of who is Jackson and Lisa? I kind of spoiled it and told them where you were, but let's find out more about you guys.
Yeah, that's the end of the story. Who you are, what you got going on, and what brings you here today? We've got lots to talk about.
Okay, well, see who we are. I am Lisa. This is Jackson, obviously. We are parents to 6 kids, grandparents to 13 grandkids. We work 7 days a week. We're always working. I am a real estate agent, a licensed real estate agent. Jackson's 100% full-time into our investing business. We've been in real estate since about 2014.
So this is always my biggest thing and this is what I always ask when somebody's talking with us, like, why real estate? Like, what was like hey, I need to do that? Was it something planned, or did you bump into it, or?
Well, it was planned and studied, and we milled it around for years and years and years because I didn't really want to do it. Jackson really wanted to do it, and then I got into it, and now it's all about working towards freedom. Financial freedom and freedom from having to answer to anybody else other than ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's such a beautiful thing that when you are able to start waking up when you want and kind of live your life on your own design, even though we do put a lot of hours in, man. It's nice, right? Like let's chat about that. Like what does your day look like a little bit? As full-time investor, Jackson, and then obviously, I know Lisa, you've got some stuff going on the real estate side too.
Oh, I was gonna say if you wanted to start. Well, I get up at between 4:30 and 5:30 every morning.
Wow.
I read every day. We walk every day. And then about 9 o'clock, we hit the computers and we start working. Jackson starts working on our investing stuff, and I start working on anything I have going on with clients in retail real estate.
So I have to ask, what time do y'all go to bed?
I usually go to bed before 9:30.
Okay.
Sounds like me.
Yeah, Jackson. Sometimes he goes to bed when I do. Most of the time, it's about 10 or 11 when he goes to bed.
And it's interesting too. I was hearing a fact, like if you just go to bed early, it solves like so many more of your problems. Just but if you go to bed early, chances are you slept well, you're waking up earlier, you're getting an earlier jump on your day, right? And sometimes that was the key to me in the very beginning when I was working full time, was I was getting up before Jen and the kids were up, because a 1-year-old, a 3-year-old at the house, you've got enough kids, what that's like. It's dogs, right? So there's always stuff like that, it's jumping. So that little half hour I had in the morning before I had to rush out the door to work, that's some of my best work I was doing. So
definitely a power hour. I feel like if you're somebody who's super busy and you're like, I just can't get anything done during the day, then just try setting that alarm a little bit early. Maybe not, hour or two quite yet, but try 30 minutes. And then the next week, bump it a little bit more. And you'll find that the quiet time, at least for me, when it's quiet, I can get more done than if everybody's awake running around needing stuff, right?
100%.
Awesome.
Yeah, Lisa's cat gets her up. She don't need an alarm. Her cat will get her up like 4:30 or 5 every morning.
He is the alarm, or she?
She's an alarm. She's definitely very persistent early in the mornings to getting Lisa out of bed.
And then she goes back to sleep.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, gotta love it.
So obviously you're both working by 9 o'clock, where you're now dialed in. So what does that part look? Are you calling sellers, talking to buyers? As an investor side, we're going to start with you, Jackson.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, typically I do a lot of research in the mornings. I go through the probate list, which I don't know how accurate it is. I mail them usually, but I get it off of I think Realty Track, not the probate, but the pre-foreclosure list. And then, of course, I get notices from our local paper of probates, and I'll send a postcard to those attorneys and people that are actually going through that in the mornings. And of course, any other advertising that I have to do, like Google Ads or Facebook, I'm always designing, putting something together to get that out there in front of people.
So you're working on generating business, right?
Yes. It's always generating leads. You always got to be in front of people. Yes.
Well, and so everybody listening, we're going to drop some little nuggets right now. So take out some notes if you're listening. But so the first thing you do, obviously, take care of yourself physically, mentally. You probably had some breakfast, right? You didn't skip that. You're, especially after one of these long walks, like I come back, I'm hungry, right? So I get it. But then after that, it's right to business, and it's right to lead generation and dialing that in, because if you don't have leads coming in one way or another, if not many ways, more importantly, you don't have a business. So the first thing we're working on here is generating revenue. And I want to kind of piggyback off of that, because sometimes you might do some lead generation and you don't get the results right away. And I kind of want to talk about one of the latest deals that you guys just did that we were kind of talking about in our small group coaching, but like, what an amazing story. So I know I would have given up on this seller. And so to hear the fact that you didn't and how you did it was really cool. So can we get into that deal?
Sure. Yeah. It's actually 2 deals, and one years ago, it's probably been 3 to 4 years ago. I used to, I guess, drive for dollars and see, houses that were vacant and all. And I'd spot houses, and I'd always mail them a postcard. At that time, I was licensed as a realtor, a real estate agent. And, there's always an opportunity that maybe we can buy it and fix it up, or maybe we can help them sell it. With kind of a two avenues we could have. And this particular lady, she had, all her mail was coming to a post office box. So, I mean, she's literally like a ghost, because I looked everywhere to try to find her information. So over the last, I guess, 3.5 to 4 years, mailed her postcards at least once every quarter, probably one postcard. Hey, can we buy your house? Whatever. Well,
so for a year, for years.
Years. And I don't think I'd actually mailed her anything in probably 6 or 8 months. I kind of gave up. I mean, I know you said, but sometimes you just, she's never going to respond. Well, she kept the postcards, right? She had them. And then what had happened was the county had gotten on her because of overgrowth, the trees down in the yard and grass. And this is like out in the county, so it's not really regulated. But the county got involved because I think the neighbors were kind of upset. And she finally called me. She says, "Hey, you want to buy the house?" House is, she's really worried about one. But and then I told her, "Yeah, sure, I'd like to come down there and take a look and see what we could do." And I was like, we had a good conversation, and I couldn't really place who it was because I didn't recognize the name. Well, she had changed her name. Anyways, long story short.
Well, you couldn't find her, probably.
Yeah. So I said, "Yeah, I can come down there and look Friday." Well, she called me back like the next day and says, "Well, I'm going out of town." And I'm like, okay. So, and it was like, I didn't hear from her for probably 4 or 5 weeks. And then she called me again. Said, "Okay, can you meet us down there?" And it was about another 2 weeks before I could actually get her in the house. And I finally went down there and met with them. It was her and a friend of hers. Walked through both of the houses. Well, walked through one of them. The other house, the red house as we'll call it, the floors had done caved in. It was just pretty much a shell.
Wow.
Full of furniture, full of stuff.
Full of stuff. She had used it pretty much for storage. And you know, I don't really know how much of her story I can share. I don't know, but she had some medical issues a while back, and it made her change the way she thought about monetary things. So she didn't find the houses or anything in them important, but what she did find important was that the code enforcement was threatening her with fines and such. So she said, "Well, can you buy these houses?" I said, "Sure." We come up with a deal, and we've worked it out to where I don't know if you want the details on each deal or what you'd like to know.
Well, I think that's really what you want to share, but I think, yeah, I know everybody else listening is probably like, yeah, I'd love to hear more.
And drop your questions, guys. If you've got questions, I know he's given a lot of investor speak. So if you don't know driving for dollars or anything like that, there's no dumb questions around here. We're here to help everybody learn along the way. I'm curious, how many times a year were you sending out these postcards? Was it just once a year? Or were you dropping them frequently?
It's probably like 4 times a year. Early on,
Quarterly.
early on, it probably was like once every 60 days, and eventually, 4 times a year, and then probably, once a year or twice a year.
Well, think about it. 3 years later, I know I've probably been like, geez, well, either she has a whole pile of them, which sounds like she might
She
have
at least kept one, right?
Well, I know for a fact I wasn't the only one mailing her. I mean,
Oh, wow.
because I'm sure she has a whole suitcase full of postcards, or she did.
Yeah. Well, and this is a big point of that, time and circumstances can change everything for a seller and really make them maybe not that motivated at one point. And then obviously they get a call from code enforcement. And now that level of motivation just jumped right up. Right now, all of a sudden they're, that's that I need to get this thing sold. They're at their hottest point. And so the fact that you were consistently still following up with her for all of these years, at least this is why you were in the running. Didn't guarantee that you had the deal, but obviously they knew that you're interested in buying it, right? It wasn't one and done. So if you're listening to this, guys, marketing doesn't always work on the very first try. And if it doesn't, it's okay to keep trying, especially if you feel like there's a property where there's a seller and they do have a situation and you feel like you can help and provide some value to that. So great for you to like keeping up with it too. Like seriously.
Yeah, it took I spent a lot of time with her after our first meeting. I did spend quite an amount of time with her, talking to her and building rapport and trying to understand and help her through the whole process. And eventually we were able to get closed on both of the properties. So the red house, which was the easiest one, and the one in the worst shape. I mean, it was pretty much just a brick shell. That's all it was. All the floors had collapsed. Well, Lisa, one of her clients, it was her ex-husband that had called Lisa, or how did that go?
He had been trying to get in touch with that lady. He had been in that house for years, and he couldn't get in touch with her. So my client gave me his phone number and gave him mine, and he called me, and we got that set up because he really wanted that house.
Wow. How did they know you had it?
I told her.
Okay, cool. I didn't know if he saw it like maybe a post or something, or
I told her that we were working on it. We didn't even have it at the time. I told her we were working on it.
So word of mouth, talk about what you do for a living, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Imagine that.
Oh yeah, and again, bringing up the point with some people think you have to have that cash, you have to have the capital to buy it, and in this case, you didn't buy those deals. You got them under contract, and then you assigned the contract to an end buyer, like you're speaking of, who then is going to go in and sounds like possibly demolish this and then rebuild it or whatever. Maybe it's the land value they want. I'm not quite sure, but if there's an end buyer there, so that's a great way to invest back into your own business now once you make that spread that on that deal.
Yeah, and I think wholesaling a deal or two, what they call selling paper, because Jackson didn't sell him the lease, he sold him the contract to buy the house, right? So had it under contract at a good price, found a cash buyer who was like, obviously said, I've been trying to get a hold of this lady. So you weren't the only one trying to get a hold of her. Yeah. Others couldn't either. And then once word of mouth, and this is what we talk about, like sharing who it is, like who you are and what you do with the community and others, you get your buyer just through a referral that way.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think we spoke to Jackson that like she had that emotional attachment like to the house, and it was a lot. And we've run into that with so many sellers where just the thought of listing it and having the public right, like it's very scary to them at times. So just to direct deal with you as the investor coming in and helping her just eases a lot of stress, especially if she's got a lot going on.
Yeah, the red house, the brick house, was actually her. It's where she grew up, and her parents had built that house in the 1930s.
Wow.
And she had a lot of stuff in the house. And after we closed on the house, well, during the process and after we closed, she had requested some things that she remembered in the house. And of course, I passed the word on to the end buyer, and he's going to try to salvage those things if he can find them, so we can return them to him. And it was just small things like portraits that were hanging on walls that she can remember where they were at. It was nothing really of value monetarily, more
Right.
emotional value.
But this is the part of real estate that I love getting into because I feel like it's overlooked by the big checks and the this and the that, right? Like these are people and these are homes and their memories, and a portrait costs nothing to someone else walking in there, but emotionally, like it means something. So if you can help her out, like that's really what I find really fascinating about real estate.
Yeah, when you buy some of these houses too, like the things that get left behind, you'd be surprised. Some of it, one was a brand new snowblower. Like, I don't know if it was ever used, just brand new, covered in this wrapper. And it came with the house. So down in Florida, that don't matter. Some of you down here don't even know what that is. That's okay. For my northern people, that was for you. Brand new one. They're like $1,000 or more.
Yeah.
It throws snow out of your driveway. It's not like a snowball machine. But so there's different things that you could find in these properties, and a lot of it is sentimental value. So if you're able to kind of work with the seller through that. I know one of ours that we bought, there was like his grandfather's old like metal oiling can, and he was like, oh my gosh, I would love to have that.
That's right. Yeah.
Remember that? So he came up to my work and he went and got it. So it was really cool to be able to do those things for these folks too. So that's awesome.
And then, of course, yes, you are able to help people out and make some money. It is a business. So that's always, important as well. We always say, if you don't make dollars.
It don't make sense. But you did not one deal. You did 2 deals there?
Yeah, I did 2 deals. The other house, we called it the White House. And we run into a little bit of an issue on that one. I immediately had it assigned within like a week to some neighbors, and they didn't follow through. We were run up to closing day, and the day before they were like, "Oh, we're backing out. We don't want it."
I love that. Might as well not wait till the last second. I love it.
Of course, right? So that was a little hurdle to get across, but the seller, she was very willing to extend a little bit. And so we did finally get that one closed. It was a family house as well. It just wasn't. It was part of her family at one time, and we were able to assign it and make very good off of it. But back to the red house, Jim. The guy that actually purchased the house, he actually is going to try to save the house.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. So the brick's still there. The foundation's good. Everything looks good on the outside. He just has to rebuild all the floors, clean it up. So he is going to try to salvage the house.
How cool.
At the end of the day, each house is probably going to be worth about $350,000 to $400,000.
Nice.
So yeah, for the people that bought them, if they're going to hold on to them or sell them down the road, I don't know. I didn't ask.
Yeah.
How far away are you from these houses?
They are about 30 minutes away.
So maybe in a little bit you can pop out there and shoot a little content. Keep us posted.
Yeah. I talked to the guy on a regular that bought the red house because I kind of know him. But I'm going to follow up with him every few months, see where they are, and ask him how the neighbor's doing on his side of the fence.
So here's a tip too. If you can, I would have any before pictures. I would get any in progress pictures from him. Hey, do you have any in progress pictures that you can share in your Facebook page? And then the same thing goes. It's completed, because it's really, I'll tell you what, some of our coolest videos and things were houses that came back from like, oh my gosh, I wouldn't walk in here, to where like, I want to move in here.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So it's really cool. And I'll tell you, that's been some of our favorite things to do, is get that beautiful neighborhood, just find that one ugly house and how to make it beautiful again. So it's cool being part of it. The neighbors are going to love you for it too. So you actually impact the community as well, which is awesome.
Yeah,
So,
it is very impactful to the community, because the neighbors, all of them were very unhappy with the house. I talked to several of them, aside from the ones that were originally going to buy it, but everybody was really irritated that the houses were in the condition that they were in. And they're the ones that pushed code enforcement to put their thumb on the seller. So, I mean, we helped the seller out. We helped 2 people out there that are actually going to turn the houses into something. And we're going to help families out if they decide to sell them down the road.
right.
And the neighbors are going to be tickled that they don't have to deal with the mess anymore and look at it when they drive by every day.
And the town's like, thank you. So they
Yeah.
don't have to get those calls anymore.
Well, and if you think about it, it's the contractors, it's the title company that help close the deal, right? It's the people down at the hardware store. And so like, when you think of like, if you actually did like broke it down, like super small scale, like how many people that get helped through these deals, it is really, really cool to be a part of that process somewhere too. So I have to ask, if there was a red house and there was the white house, is there gonna be a blue house and just do like the whole American flag theme? Does she have a blue house?
Our house is blue. You know, we're working on it.
Well, then let's giddy up.
The termite house.
Yeah.
We got to talk about the termites.
The
Oh my
number
God.
one termite house, we have 3 now, but we have
Well,
we
I
have
might
2
be.
neighbor termite houses.
Well, termites weren't a thing in New York, really. So, like, you guys have educated me so much in the last few months. Like, are there any like definite like red signs, like red flags? Like, what do you do when you get termites, or how do you know you have termites?
You cry.
Okay, after you cry.
So crying's over.
You can see termites. They make mud tunnels. Like if you see like a line of dirt, like a little, kind of like a mud dauber, just not as big. If you know what a mud dauber nest looks like. But
We're
it's
Yankees. This is all new to us down here.
a dirt tunnel that goes up the block or the brick.
Dirt tunnels. Okay.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
they here they live in the ground. We have subterranean termites. They live in the ground. So if you start seeing mud tunnels go up, or if you see translucent wings on little black bugs that are,
Kind of look like ants.
kind of look like ants, but not, you need to call an exterminator.
Yeah. And in South Florida, it's like you have to almost assume. So we went to a mobile home park where we have a property under contract. One of the guys gets there and he's like, "Oh yeah, not if, but how much?" Like,
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
I was like, "Oh joy!" I'm telling you, I've been doing this my whole life in upstate New York, and it's not like it's immune to them. I've never seen a termite thing before, and now down here,
Oh,
my gosh,
I guess there are some mud things up in New York that we're talking about. Mud daubers.
Mud daubers. Those are bees.
Yeah, they're like, that's what they're like.
okay.
We're entertaining people nonetheless here. So you don't run from the termites. You just cry, and then you're like, okay, I'm just going to tackle it and bring it back.
Tackle them.
Yeah, so definitely if you buy a house, get an inspection. It's like $100 usually, but it's well worth it. It might save you lots and lots and lots of money.
Well,
Okay.
We found a seller who had that problem. It was when the peak of the market was happening in Florida. She buys a house sight unseen with her husband because they were buying it online. Back then, height of the market, you had to waive all inspections if you remember how bad it was. They paid over asking. They waived all the inspections. They moved from Texas to there. And then they noticed one of the walls was a little wavy. So they opened up the wall and it was thousands and thousands, and it opened up more walls, which turned into more money. And it was like the never ending story with this house, to the point where we were talking about buying it with terms. We looked at originally, and she actually just let it go back to the bank because of how much was wrong with it. So it can get expensive.
Yes.
It can. I think you guys actually have like drywood termites down in Florida as well. where we have mostly wet termites here. Or they're in the
Is one
lab.
worse than the other? Like they both sound terrible.
No.
They're both just as bad. Termites will eat your house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
So that's why in Florida, I will say the big difference, one of the things that we adapted to here was a block frame home versus a wood frame home have a way different value down south, especially. I mean, they do in general. The brick home, right? The first one, the red home, the floors were all rotted, but you could do all that stuff as long as the foundation is great and the bricks are fine. Like you could do a lot more with them. Wood frame homes are a different story sometimes, right? So for the keepers, the ones that we want to keep, if I find like a block frame home in Florida, those are the keeper properties for us.
Yeah. So yeah, and there our second house that we have up here that's termite infested. It's a block house too. They,
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, they just gotten inside in the walls. They come up through the cracks in the concrete, and they start inside in the framed walls. So even if it's blocked and it's on a slab, you should definitely always have it checked.
Mm-hmm. So if you're listening here and you're buying houses, this is some of the things you want to experience.
And again, it's like it's all about what level of like the problem are you willing to solve, and do you have the money to kind of fix those problems? So just before you go buying up houses, just because it's a cool thing to do in Florida, like make sure you're doing your research, because I think that that's really important. Some people are just jumping all in before they have the full scope. So you want to educate yourself, still take the action, but ask some experts in the field here about termites. Well, I want to get into the next deal too. I want to hear how you found the seller, and this was a creative one, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's dive into that.
I have at one of the attorneys that we've done a lot of closings at. They're the girl that works the front desk. We're friends on Facebook. We're friends. She's very crafty, and she makes hats. She burns designs in hats and stuff, and I buy them from her just to support her. And she sent me a message, and she said, "Hey, my parents are wanting to sell one of their houses. Would you want their number?" I was like, "Absolutely."
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, we want their number. So then, we got him and Jackson, the owner, and Jackson connected, and I'll let Jackson tell you the details of that one.
Oh, yeah. So me and Lisa had gone out there just to meet and look at the place, and it was a modular home on a half-acre lot or so, 3-bedroom, 2-bath. When we were talking to the owner, he was like, "Well, I got a guy supposed to buy it for $150 or something, and the guy never showed up, or I don't even know what that situation was." But as we talking, building rapport with the fella, we talked about kind of our business and what we did, how we like to buy houses, and we could make him a cash offer, which would be fairly low, because we have to make a profit on everything. Then I said, but if you're open to doing some seller financing, maybe we could work something out. And he really liked the idea of us seller financing from him.
So wait a minute. I know everybody always says, "Well, how do you bring it up? Like, what do you say? Like, was it scary?
How did you convince? That's my favorite.
Yeah. Oh yeah. How do you convince him?
The guy that was going to buy it before, he was going to owner finance it to him, but he didn't want to do it. He didn't. He didn't really know us. His daughter knows us, but
Right.
he was going to do it just for that guy.
Okay.
Until Jackson got to talking about how we do things.
So we arrived back home, and I run comps on the property, and it was a good deal. It was a good deal for what he was giving the guy, $150. So I made a proposal. I made him a cash offer, and our proposal has like 3 different options. There was a cash offer. I think it was for like $109K cash, close in 30 days. Of course, that would have been an assignment. We would have assigned it to somebody else. I already had a guy lined up that would have bought it. And our second option was 0 down, 5 years, for $180,000, with a balloon in 5 years, and it was at 2.5% interest. And then our third option was 5,000 down, 7-year balloon, 3.5% interest. And of course, he chose the one I wanted him to choose because it would have been best for us to get 7 years.
Yeah.
And so we agreed on a $5,000 down, $170K purchase price. And of course, he financed $165,000 to us. So we're in for $740 a month for the next 7 years.
Nice.
We did have some work to do. We bought it. We didn't think there's some decks on the back of it that were in some bad shape. We just thought we could replace some boards and everything would be good. But we had 2 contractors look at it like that because all the frame was in bad shape. It had been there for 20 years plus.
Okay.
And so 2 small decks cost us $4,000. And then the HVAC had a problem with it. The coil that they had put in a year ago, brand new, the coil was had failed, had a hole in it or something. So we had to get a warranty repair on it, but it still cost us the labor, which was another $1,400. And then, of course, termites. We're running up the inside of the piers where there were debris that had been left in the crawl space, wood debris, and the termites that got in it, and they started their way up the piers. So we had it treated last week. So total all in with closing costs and everything, we're about $17,000 right now.
Okay. So what's your exit strategy with that?
We're going to lease with an option to purchase or rent to own.
Cool.
We're trying to attain. We have 1 application in. We're trying to obtain more, but it's going to be a $15,000 down, what we think, and it's going to be $1,750 a month, which is very good. The comps, the house next door, very similar to this one, upgraded. Same year model and everything, just new interior, cosmetics. It just sold for $288, like literally a week after we bought ours.
Giddy up.
Yeah. So the equity's there. If we can't, we hope to find somebody to rent it to so that they can purchase it. But if we'll do a Hail Mary if we have to and put another $30K in and sell it and make, $100,000 or something.
Different plays.
I know. That's why we call it the playbook, because there's like so many different options to do. It's like, okay, which one? And sometimes you're going to look at one and then all of a sudden you have to pull in a different play and go a different direction and call an audible. And I think that's what the key is the more different exit strategies you have will give you the ability to do more deals, because once you're able to do the deal, I have a few different things I could do with it versus just one thing. Which will then open up that avenues for you too. So you could offer it rent to own. You could put a little bit more money into it and retail it, right? Because I just think about it out loud to myself, like I would love to keep it because you have a 7-year term, right? And then cash flow for the next 7 years hopefully goes up worth a whole lot more between now and then anyways on top of that. So that's just me. Yeah,
that's what we want to happen. But the house is kind of rural, but it's in a really nice area, in a really nice neighborhood. We've had a lot of traction on it through Facebook and Zillow, but a lot of folks just can't seem to come up with that initial option fee. But it's only been 3 weeks, so I mean, we're early in the game.
Yeah, and you're going to have that. So definitely some tips there, which you guys know is just get them in the property, let them see it, feel the feeling of the home. Because we always talk about home is a feeling, right? Like when you walk into a place, like you're like, oh, this is it. And so just making sure you're getting enough foot traction in there and just advertise, market like crazy, like till you're so sick of talking about this property. But that's how you have to really just put it out there to the masses, because using our phones, it's crazy how many people we think like we are reaching, but like there's so many more people out there, from marketplace to the different Facebook groups to bandit signs if you're willing to put in a little effort there, because we've had folks, my buddy saw the sign and gave me the number, and he ends up owning that home. And so you just never know which avenue your tenant buyer is going to fall into, but it's really awesome.
They come in all different ways too. From like Zillow has worked, Craigslist has worked, the yellow signs have worked. All different times too. So that's why we like the shotgun approach and just send them all out at once, set up them webs and let people see them.
Well, it's out there. I mean, it's out there so much that I have people showing up over there calling me, say, hey, this is, is this so-and-so rentals? And I was like, no. They said, well, some guy said we rent this for $800 a month. So there's some people on Craigslist already posting our house for rent or whatever.
I know.
Isn't us, right? And thank goodness we have a sign in the yard, and they drive over there and see the number to call and then call us.
Yeah.
And that's smart too. If you have your phone number like right there, so whoever is at the house, you can get them in to show it as soon as possible. And also try to steer clear of those scammers out there. We even made a video on our page years ago, scammers beware, because we know real life people that they've fallen trapped to that. It's so awful.
Yep. And we've had people reach out to us like, hey, I follow your page and I know you've got this property for rent, but right now the same one's on Craigslist and it's like half the price to
Too
rent.
good to be true.
And then I look and I'm like, report. I'm like, everybody report it. And so like all of our followers like went and reported the thing and it was removed. I even like emailed the guy and I was like, hey, this is my property. And they took it down. So, but, so that's one of the things we started doing is like somebody like watermarking our phone number on the pictures. The Craigslist ones, especially. That was one of the things that we found. But I love that like local signs too, like one in the front yard, a couple around town. Really, really gets the word out there too. And when they're in the front yard, I'll tell you, when that call rings, you want to answer it because if they've got money, you want them to take a tour.
And it's such a great opportunity that a lot of people don't even know it's out there. When people like us, we acquire these houses, you fix it up a little bit, and now you're giving somebody who maybe has run into some credit issues, maybe they had some medical bills or whatever happens, right? Like life happens to great people. And so now you're going to give them an opportunity to go move in, fix their credit, kind of get things in shape and be living in their home that they're going to own in just a few years. So that's such a great opportunity.
Yeah. So, well, good. We'll keep sharing it, guys. I'm sure you're going to get some people. I think of the lady who just rented one of ours. She just got a divorce. Sweet lady. Got a heck of a property. Got to make it now her own. Mapped out her own garden and things like that. So she's making it home already, which is wonderful. And then over time, we're going to give her that time to fix what's broken. And with some of our listeners, they're like, well, why is having money important? Well, if you ever bought a house, you're going to need closing costs, attorney fees, percentages down towards the property itself. You're not going to do no money down, right? So you got to put money down towards that. And what you don't want to do is wait years and years and years from somebody to rent the house just to find out they get everything fixed, but they still don't have the money they're hoping to have. So it's important to make sure you have some type of that up front in the agreement up front. So then you're setting yourself and your renters up for success too. So I think that's what's really most important, but that's also why when you do rent to own and you do it right, you're actually helping people. And we turn a bunch. I just got a call last week from one of our renters. He's like, I'm ready to buy the house. What's the next step? I'm like, giddy up. So, they moved in 2020. So been rocking out there for 4 years. Oh yeah. No kidding. That was then.
So it's really awesome experience. We've got some great questions going on. You guys ready for a little Q&A?
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So back to the postcards. I think that was a little intriguing here. How many were you sending out and who did you figure out who to mail them to? So I know you said you do them quarterly, but like, were you just doing like 10 at a time or like how many at a time, I guess?
Back then when we started mailing houses, I would just drive around, I would write down their address. Right. And then, I think there was a company that a lot of realtors use. I'm not going to mention them here, but they'll mail out postcards and stuff. But you can kind of design your own postcard. So I'd write down the addresses and then I'd go back to their program and then I'd put the addresses in and I'd just say, I change a couple of things, willing to buy your house or help you sell it. And then I just send out the postcards that way. And typically, I think we were probably at that time 3 or 4 years ago, probably mailing 100 postcards a month.
Wow.
Nowadays we mail. I mean, just this morning I mailed about 300. So it's gradually increased over the years.
So
Okay.
you're paying for obviously the stamp, the envelope, right? So there's some costs that go in that too.
Yeah.
So obviously the goal is to get a rate, get some return on that. And this is where the consistency goes in. And what I learned from direct mail was you shouldn't mail the folks just one time. This is what my mistake was when I first got started. We'd only mail you one time and that was it. So like you got one of our letters. And if you didn't say yes on that letter, like you're never going to hear from us again. So like, I didn't know. But so that's why I want to just kind of touch on this point. Like you're pulling these lists, but you're also, you know, like your first with the Red House and the White House, like years of her getting letters, right?
Yeah.
And it finally worked. So it does take that. And I think the average is what, like 7 letters?
Yeah, that's our minimum is 7. Nowadays, I mean, it probably wasn't as much back then when we started, but today I think the average is 7 that you should mail, which means you should probably mail 10. Right?
Of course. Of course. Yep.
So would you say that's your primary lead source? I know obviously the second one we talked about there came through Facebook, kind of like a personal referral, being present there on Facebook and knowing that person.
Yeah, typically postcards are our primary. Now we're doing stuff on Facebook. It hasn't been as successful as I would like it to be because there's a lot of competition there too. And I just I just haven't been able to figure it out and save enough money. I haven't figured out if it's worth it or not yet. So
I'm still working on that myself.
We got to get you some virtual assistants. That's what we got to do. We got to get you guys some help in that department there, so you're not doing all the posting.
Yeah, but direct mail is currently, that's our best lead source. That's where we get most of our stuff from, and word of mouth. I mean, you know,
word of mouth on both deals, really, like being able to have that presence in your community and people like showing up on social media, using that as a referral tool, and then just like continually talking about it. I think that's gonna, you know, it's just started. Like you planted all those seeds all these years, and now you're starting to see the fruits of the labor. So no matter what channel you use, it's staying consistent with it and then continually showing up, even when you feel like it's not working. And when you want to quit, that's when it's about to happen.
It's true. And that's why I think like what you're sharing on social media, what you're doing, and even like the projects that you're working on and all of those things, like it's cool to see. And I'm like a dork because I love watching it happen too myself. So it's just fun to see, but it's also great to see too, because obviously they know that you guys are the real deal and professional, and that's awesome.
I saw you guys doing your walkthrough too there. I was like, hey, look at Joe doing that walkthrough.
Yeah. That was the mobile home with the
termites.
The termite mobile home. Oh, the fun.
Yeah.
Right? You find yourself in some really fun places. And here's the thing too, shout out. Like I went there to go visit it, to walk the property, and there's the neighbor, Bob, outside smoking a cigarette outside his trailer. 10 minutes later, I'm inside his, we're hanging out, talking about football and things like that. And like you just meet the neighbors. I'm a people person, so some of you might be freaking out by doing that, but I don't know, I love it. So it's
I was
fun
like, where did you go? Like, I thought you were gonna be like off the video and then come right home, and he was with Bob hanging out.
He's a cool guy. It's a 55 and older community, so his wife was out, and it was just him waiting for her to come home from shopping. So we were just chatting at the kitchen table.
But you also, didn't he say like he might sell in the future? Like
he is going to sell. Yep, because they want to move. They actually want to move to North Carolina because that's where all the kids are, and they want to be closer to their grandkids. So he and his mother-in-law, they all want to sell because she's got one in the same park.
Okay, nice.
So I was like, about that whole park.
I'm gonna jump over to Instagram. I've got some action going on here. I can't pull up the questions, but I'd love to kind of asking a question. What are some common reasons that people will sell this way with an investor versus why they wouldn't sell with a realtor? Like, do you want to kind of break down, like, what's the pro of, the first couple of deals we talked about, why an investor worked better for her?
Well, I guess you could have went with a realtor, but a lot of agents want you to fix up the house and do a lot of repairs. and it costs a lot of money. Some people just don't have the extra money to put into any house, and of course, some people don't want their business out there, you know. So if you go in with an agent, you're going to have to. It's going to be advertised online usually, and then your house is going to be posted everywhere. And some people are very private, and they don't want anybody in their business. Sort of like this seller I dealt with. She was very private, and I kind of referred to even the end buyers as just she was kind of like the ghost, because they're like, we've tried to reach her for years, and they just could never get her hold of her. So I call her the ghost, because since we've closed both deals, I've sent her text and called her and haven't heard a thing. And hopefully she'll reach out again, because I'd like to meet back up with her and have lunch or something.
Oh, well, yeah. And so again, the funds, people might have the money, and then privacy is a huge thing. So a lot of people just don't want everyone all up in their business.
Well, and I think of our people that we did the deal in North Pole, Alaska. It was the same situation. He was a disabled veteran. They had the house when he was stationed there, but they haven't lived there in years. They had renters living there who they didn't trash it by any means. But the realtor there was like, I'm not even going to list the house until you do this big long list of things. And it was like 20 grand, 25,000. And here these people are having a house in North Carolina where they lived, and they're making 2 payments. The second payment of the Alaska house was like $1,400 a month.
Yeah.
They were making that payment for 2 years while they're living check to check. And so when they saw our Facebook post, they're like, hey, if you really want to help us out, don't buy our house in North Carolina. Buy our house in North Pole, Alaska. And I remember looking at Jen like, what is Santa? I want to sell. I didn't. Okay, once again, I didn't know that was a real place. I thought it was just in fairy tales, but it's like a real town. There's like
we were laughing,
a military base there. After I started, I'm like, what? Okay, so, I didn't know, but that's okay. But that's when we did that deal, and it was the same thing, Jackson. They didn't have the money to go put into the house. They were just living check to check. And I don't know how they were swinging that 2 payments for all of that time.
Did, yeah.
It's
So
gotta be tough, yeah.
So when you're hearing those questions of like why, there's probably even other examples on that list we'd even come close to touching on.
Well, maybe they've also tried to list it and it didn't sell. So now you've got to explore other options. That can happen too. If the house is maybe listed at a different price, or things are happening behind the scenes.
Well, you know what? And right before we hop down here, I got a call from a local agent in Tampa. And guys, this is real numbers, but she's in a situation where their seller wants to sell a property here in Tampa on the outskirts. It's a 5,000 square foot house. It is like crazy nice, like 5 bedrooms, 5 bathrooms, the pool, the hot tub part, it's like the Mac Daddy house. And the seller has a 3.99 rate and is selling it for under what they owe, because they bought it in 2022 when you had to pay over asking for everything, right?
Yeah.
And now they've got a low rate, but the problem is now they're selling for less than what they owe, and it's still sitting. It's not even moving. And so she reached out like, hey, I know you do this creative stuff. Like, what can we do here? So I was just looking at the deal, but guys, like, it's even listed with an agent and it's still not working. So there's many different reasons why a seller might be reaching out to you by seeing your post or by sharing what you do on Facebook. And if I'm buying houses, which I do, I should be posting pretty much daily that I do this to make sure that everybody knows what I do. And if they come across these situations, maybe I could help them. So some keys right there, guys, if you're doing this stuff or if you want to.
Yeah. So don't assume that everybody wants to list with an agent. They don't. Like, there's other options out there, and people like options.
Yeah.
Do you have any learning experiences that you would want to share? Anything like in the last 6 months you'd say I had a aha moment, or like, hey, don't do this or definitely do that?
Go ahead, Lisa.
Jackson.
I have lots of aha moments. So recently I became unlicensed. I became inactive as a real estate agent. I was a full-time real estate agent, but I had there were a lot of negativity from other agents in the area that they kind of, I don't know if they didn't like what I did or I was competition. I don't really know, but I had to deal with a few things Um, but it was easier for me to give up my license to do what I want to do and help people that way. Because sometimes there's certain rules and regulations that you have to follow, and they didn't think I was following the right rules. And instead of me having to deal with it, I decided to just get my license up. Lisa would keep her license, and I would go full time into investing and helping people on the other side that don't want to use an agent.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and there's some big nuggets right there too, because I know when we first got started, like we were like, do we need to be agents? Maybe I should get my license. And Jen thought maybe she does for a little bit.
I was really close to it, and
I was like, nope, I'm not going to do it. I want to be an investor. I want to stay an investor. So I'm not picking it, obviously. Shout out Lisa. I'm not picking on realtors, but like that was one of the things for me when I first got into it, realized I don't need to be an agent to buy houses. So if you're watching this and you're thinking, do I need my license? You don't. You don't need a license to buy a house. You don't need a license to sell your house. You don't need a license. Well, you do in some places to assign contracts now, depending on where.
Right. Obviously, check your local, area officials.
But you don't need to be an agent to buy a house.
Nope.
So that's the kind of the neat thing about it, guys, and girls listening. So remember, don't let those little things hold you back. The number, one thing is to start taking action. So kind of even pulling back, and we'll answer some more questions. But when Jackson said in the beginning, like 9 o'clock, he's at the laptop or phone or iPad, whatever, and he's starting to work on how am I going to generate leads, and that's by doing some marketing. And then obviously, as these leads are coming in, they're chatting with these sellers. They're going to see properties, guys. They're taking action, and these little action steps are the difference of just watching videos and hoping you could do it, and then actually living these step-by-step process of doing it. And that's where you're going to learn. It's not by watching videos. It's by actually seeing the house with the floor, right? Mailing the lady, talking to her about the situations and connecting. That's where the value comes in of what we do as investors. So if you want to get into this, good, watch videos to get like the entertainment part of it. But when you're starting to want to do that, like you got to roll up your sleeves and actually get into it. And that's the thing that's cool about you guys. From the time we met,
you jumped right in.
I mean, you were already in it, but it was like there was no stopping you and you just kept taking those action steps of finding deals. How can I offer more than just these cash offers, but these creative deals too? And like, how can I get more of these? And I think that's the neat thing about what we get to do.
Yeah, the greatest thing is I really like going out and talking to people. That's probably the thing I love most is I'll go out and I'll go to somebody's house and
be there for 4 or 5 hours.
4 or 5 hours, 6 hours, and Lisa sending me a text, where are you at? And I don't know because my phone's in the car, right?
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, well, when I get back in the car, I say, well, I'm on my way home and it's like dark.
Your dinner's cold. Sorry, Jax.
But that's probably the best part of the whole thing. Even being a realtor or being in creative finance myself, I think going out and talking to people and trying to solve their problem however you can and just connecting with folks is probably the best part of this business.
I totally agree. And I want to put this up here. I got some more community members who are all hanging out at Athena's house. Shout out to Miranda and Juliana. They're watching, tuning in to support their fellow members here. So that's really awesome, is finding the people that are like-minded, do the business together. I love that. I mean, obviously we're a husband and wife team, so it's really awesome to see other couples who enjoy each other's company and wanted to do business together and finding your roles. So I wanted to ask that question, because that took us a little bit of time trying to figure out which lane I was supposed to be in and which lane he was going to be in, because I am not the person who wants to jump on the phone calls or go to sellers' houses, but that's his thing. So
or even doing the contract, you're like, heck no.
Even, today someone asked me about that. The contracts are not my thing. I never learned that part of the business. So do you guys have like defined roles, or do you kind of just, whatever needs to get done gets done because you're both realtors, or how did that work rolling into investing?
Jackson talks to all the sellers. I've talked to some. I have one lady that we talked to. Where does she live? Florida or somewhere. I can't remember where she's originally from, but Jackson was trying to buy her house, and we were, he was talking back and forth, and she messages me on Facebook. She still messages me. They've sold their house.
Oh, Hampton Roads.
Yeah, and she still meant, we talk every few weeks.
I'll tell you, you build up those relationships, and you get some new friends.
Yeah. As for roles, I usually do the marketing. I talk to sellers. I chase down leads. I do a lot of driving for dollars. Lisa does some driving for dollars, and we put out, bandit signs and all kinds of craziness.
And I do the retail side.
And Lisa does a lot of the retail real estate side and a lot of the contracts. She's more the straight and narrow rule follower. Don't want to get smashed on the hand with a ruler type of girl. She's definitely the rule follower. And she tries to keep me out of trouble.
It's probably a full-time job over there.
Yeah, so you guys make the dynamic duo. Seriously. You just work perfectly together.
Yeah. Somebody asked me one time how much time we spend together, and it's about 95% of our time is together.
Wow.
Doing something.
That's probably us too.
I was gonna say that is always us. I mean,
but for next week, I'm out. You're on your own.
Oh, I know. She's going away for a whole week next week.
I love that. Well, awesome, guys. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedules. I know you've got a lot on your plates and tons of people to go to chat with. But, if there's anything you want to ask Jackson or Lisa, is there any way they can connect with you on social, or any way you want to share a Facebook handle or a group that you're maybe running?
I'm not running any group. I'm moderator of some
moderator. Okay.
Yeah. I just help out. But I guess you can reach me at facebook.com/JaxEclipse, JaxXEclipse. You can reach me there. I'm pretty easy to find. You can just type in my name and search.
Just Google us.
Yeah, you can find us on Google.
Yeah, you can just put our name in Google and find us.
Yeah.
Well, it's really cool to see your journey and all of the things you're doing, and hopefully you continue to share it all, because it's really cool to see. And I will tell you, it's really exciting to watch you guys too. So thank you so much for coming on today and being part of this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you. So if you didn't catch the beginning part, make sure you go back and watch all of it. We've got it on YouTube, Creative Finance Playbook, and it'll stream on Apple and Spotify. Until next time, guys, have a great week, and we'll catch you later.
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.